Another driver who's covered by car insurance from More Than, sponsors of Fifth Gear.
In tonight's Fifth Gear, Tiff drives the latest Subaru Impreza and Mitsubishi Evo. Quentin gives away a fancy motor. And I get roughy-tufty off-road biking.
This is the score. The whole world is bored senseless by the BMW 5 Series. For far too long, it's been far too good, leaving nobody in the boardroom with a decent alternative. All rivals have to do is come up with a car there or thereabouts, and they're on to a winner. Easy. 7 years ago, Mercedes tried their luck with the old E-Class. The badge, the build and the engines gave it a decent shout, all right, but with its sledgehammer looks and handling, they shot wide of an open goal. It was a sleepy-looking slab of metal with goofy eyes at the front.
Now they've stopped mucking about and spent 4 years and €2 billion creating this, the all-new E-Class. It's been genetically modified to look like other, more rakish members of the Merc family, the C-Class and S-Class. The E is now quite the lean, mean young shaver about town. And looks-wise, I'd give it the nod over the 5 Series.
Merc also needed to improve the driving. The old one was about as dynamic as a dunk biscuit. This one needs to be sharper, and not just in case you want to lick performance envelopes. A big bruiser like the E-Class is no fun in any situation. If driving it is like trying to steer an elephant by its ears. I can safely say this car has undergone a personality change. It's more confident, precise and intimate than it has been for years. It's not quite as raunchy as the 5 Series, and it doesn't ride quite as well, but it's not that far off. It's got a new lust for life when it comes to steering and the way it moves, which means if you're up for a bit, so is the new E-Class.
To kick off with, there will be 2 V6s and a V8. A supercharged entry-level 2-litre version will come later in the year, along with a top-end 5.5-litre AMG. As always, stick to the autos, don't bother with the manuals.
Merc interiors used to be very much Stein half empty, designed with all the fun and fervour of a salt mine. And let's not forget, the old E-Class was so vast inside, you could use it as an arena for international cat swinging. But not anymore. This one is a lot more snug and compact, and a lot better for it too. The arms-folded styling and old-school controls have given way to a warm, curvy, voluptuous, buxom dashboard that could just be the final temptress in order to get you to loosen the grip on your BMW keyring. And look at this. What a cup holder, just as they're going out of fashion. If this car had ears, it would have brains coming out of them. It's got the works, and it's all called Tronic. There's Distronic, which keeps you a safe distance from the car in front. Thermotronic, which individually monitors the temperature of each seat. Languatronic, which means you can talk to your CD and radio. Hi. You can receive text messages and emails. There's a multi-contour seat, which massages your bottom, and a newfangled air suspension system.
But they're all options, and this is Mercedes, who firmly believe that nothing good ever came cheap. The sale of a vital organ is all that comes between you and 3-pointed star luxury.
There is one Tronic that comes as standard, and that's the Sensortronic braking system. A system so quick and clever that it actually sees accidents before they happen. All right, I made that bit up. What it does do is look after you when you're braking in the wet, when you're skidding, when you're braking on bends, or in an emergency stop. Receiving emails while having your backside massaged is all very well, but nothing beats stopping when you really have to.
Available from the beginning of August, Mercedes are typically cagey about prices, but they're expected to start at around 25 grand for the entry-level classic model.
So, can we breathe a huge sigh of relief and weep uncontrollably as the tyrannical reign of the 5 Series comes to an end? Well, no. Mercedes have played their part and produced a very good car, but the BMW is still better. And with the new 5 Series just around the corner, the new E-Class looks set for a rough ride.
New cars in the UK are still far too expensive, which is why last year over 200,000 of you imported your new motors from Europe. Like a mate of mine. He bought this ultra-desirable Volkswagen Golf GT TDI from a car supermarket here in the UK. They import cars from Europe, and he saved himself the not inconsiderable sum of £3,000 over the UK dealer list price. But here's the rub. When, several months later, he took the car to a UK Volkswagen dealer to part exchange it for something else, he was only offered, are you sitting down, just £11,000, which is £4,000 less than the book price.
Yet the car is the same spec. The only difference from the Golf he could have bought new at a UK dealer is the pre-delivery stamp in the service book.
But my mate isn't the only one who's feeling marginalised. I'm getting hundreds of letters, faxes and telephone calls from people who, when they take their European imports into UK franchise dealers, they're getting financially murdered.
I found a dealer prepared to defend his trade-in prices. The sales executive here reckons used buyers won't pay as much for a car that was originally bought from a continental dealer.
You offer somebody an imported car at the same price, identical cars, one next to each other, you won't sell the imported one, I promise you.
So that's interesting, because you're saying that the consumer has a resistance to these cars.
They're fine while they're buying them and they're saving their £2,000 and £3,000. They go absolutely ape when you offer them whatever when they're trying to give it back to you. You put 2 identical ones up for sale at the same price and they cotton one's an import, you'll not sell it.
I'm sorry, I am not convinced. I do not believe British second-hand car buyers are at all bothered that their prospective purchase was originally sourced through a dealer in Bristol or Belgium, especially since 70% of all the new cars sold in the UK come from other countries anyway. Car buyers are only interested in condition, mileage and price.
Stephen Johnson is on his second import. Before the MR2, he had a Ford Puma and had no problems selling that privately.
Well, when I went to the garage, they offered me $7,200 on a Ford Puma which was 2 years old, which I was a bit disgusted with. So I decided to sell it private, advertise it at $8,400, and the phone hasn't stopped ringing.
And did people object to the fact that it was an import?
None at all.
And experts agree. Both CAP and Glasses Guide say that as long as the spec's the same, there's no difference in the used price of a UK supplied car and a European import.
We're sick of people being told to go and abroad and buy your car and sod your UK dealer.
But I still...
It is to stand by the
So you're punishing them?
If you like, yeah.
So, some UK dealers are punishing us for daring to buy abroad. But you can understand their desperation when it's the manufacturers who set Britain's rip-off car prices.
I'd like a level playing field. Surely, if the manufacturers are producing a car for £10,000 for Europe and £15,000 for the UK, what's the difference in the car? You've just said there is no difference in them. So why can't we have them for £10,000 or why can't they have them for £15,000?
That's something I've been saying for a long, long time.
While I fully sympathise with the plight of UK car dealers and understand that the manufacturers are making it enormously difficult for them to be competitive, the fact remains we must have a free market, and like it or not, we're part of Europe. So the bottom line is, if a dealer offers you silly money for your European-sourced car, walk away. Because there are plenty of buyers out there who don't give a stuff about all this nonsense and who will offer you the right price.
And you, the lonely watcher on the sofa full of crumbs, stay right where you are, because after the break I'll be giving away a Rolls-Royce.
See that hill? There's no way you could drive up it. You wouldn't even walk up it. But you could ride up it. Well, with a bit of tuition from the BMW Off-Road Skills course, where in just 2 days, complete novices like these, and me, are turned into lean, mean riding machines like these. Well, that's the plan. £350 buys you a bike for the weekend, instruction, insurance and a bite to eat. The course is run throughout the summer. It's all inspired by the gruelling Paris-Dakar event, and our instructor, Simon Pavey, is a Dakar veteran. He can teach anybody anything, although things don't bode too well when the first thing he teaches is how to pick the bike up.
That's it. As long as you do it the right way, I don't mind helping.
No, I want to do it myself.
Don't know, one big effort.
The art of hauling up an awkward 200 kilos is not to hoist from the wheel side, but to use the handlebars. I'm spent.
Now, we'll tell you when you're spent.
Down to the business of riding, and once we'd got the hang of standing for better balance and control, Simon showed us the limits of the brakes. Locking the rear goes against everything you're taught for the road, but get used to the sensation here and you don't get spooked when it happens on a sheer mountain face, which is a good thing, and I loved it.
Excellent, excellent. You got 2 fingers on the clutch?
I did have. Oh, no! Next was learning to ride with a skidding front wheel. Again, something that's definitely not taught on the road. But once you've experienced it, it shouldn't cause panic stations later on. I found this bit really difficult, and it's a horrid feeling. Others felt the same, especially when things didn't go quite according to plan. Bruises come for free on this course. Oh, I don't mind the rear end sliding around, that's absolutely fine. When you start locking the front brakes, you have really not much steering at all, and that is really worrying. I'm not liking this bit. Oh. The only things that get more bashed than the riders are the bikes. BMW F650s. £5,000, 50 horsepower and 100 miles an hour. They're pretty ordinary on-road, but tough as old boots off it. What makes this course so special is that you're being taught by people who have been there and done it. It's like going on a track day for cars and being taught by Juan Pablo Montoya or a rally school by Alistair McRae. Chief instructor Simon Pavey's competed in every major off-road rally and has a reputation for being as hard as he is nuts. Good boy. Simon, you've done the Paris-Dakar a couple of times. Tell us about it. Is it completely mad?
It is just the most incredibly hard race, yeah. Especially, well, it's mentally as much as anything, more than physically, because it's 18 days and 6,500 miles. The first year I did it, I was about 8 days into the rally and I had a pretty big crash, sort of 60 mile an hour, cartwheeled, end-friended, knocked myself stupid, didn't know where I was, didn't know which way to go, cracked all down the back of my helmet. And it's, 40 degrees, 45 degrees, and obviously that's when you get really stressed out as well, and then you make more mistakes, and it is just the most incredible race.
Now, what skills are you teaching that would help on a Paris-Dakar if I was foolish enough to decide to go and do it?
All the skills that we teach on the off-road course is exactly the same skills that you need to ride on the Dakar. They are throttle control, clutch control, finesse on the brakes, good balance, tying those all together.
Day 2 of the course is spent hitting the trail and putting your skills into practice. It's a lot easier following Simon around Wales than it would be navigating the Dakar's deserts. There, riders have no co-drivers, have to deal with the shortage of spare parts and even put up with local bandits. Then there are the inevitable injuries. Countless people finish the event with broken wrists and ankles. This course is great, but it only gives you the tiniest flavour of the Dakar, which is probably just as well.
Last week I told you how classic car prices have softened, but I didn't show you the monster bargain of them all. And by the end of this item, we'll be giving one away. You see, I've held something back. A little something hidden underneath the counter.
And here it is. The market for old cars is now so weak that you can buy a low-mileage, gorgeous Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow like this for the price of a mouldy old Mondeo.
This pretty 1971 car has covered just 45,000 genuine miles from new. had 2 owners, and was plucked out of the Sutton Coldfield Observer by one of our 5th gear directors for just £5,300. Remember, there was a time when the Shadow rightly laid claim to the title greatest car in the world, yet you'll be surprised how reasonable they are to run. Fully comp classic insurance for a 24-year-old is just $550, and if you know where to look, and we do, you can get any part and expert service at a fraction of dealer prices. So with high hopes, we set off to find a double R of our own. First stop was an auction. We fancied this 1972 car, but were beaten by a private man paying nearly £9 grand. Undeterred, we found one hidden in a Croydon lockup. Only £6 grand, but I hated the colour, so it was on with the hunt.
After a long weekend poring over the classifieds, I found this. It's a 1976 Shadow I, willow gold, and it is done just 42,000 miles from new, with MOTs going back to the Jurassic age. They're all there. Service history stamped up to 37,000 miles. It's done only 42, remember. Lots and lots and lots of old bills, handbooks, etc. But best of all, it's the long wheelbase version. For tired tycoons or rock stars. I've even got my own footrest.
This Birmingham classic car dealer wanted £8 grand, I bid 6, and after some friendly toing and froing, we settled on 6,815. And don't be put off by the graffiti or rusty fences. Places like this are run by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. So what's the first thing we're going to do? Give it away. Just think of that drive home. Just think of how you'll be able to perfect the art of arriving. And all you've got to do is answer this question. What's the name of the Rolls-Royce mascot? Is it the spirit of euphoria, the spirit of ecstasy, or the spirit of elation? Call 0901 565 5002 to enter, and we'll show that number again at the end of the programme. Lines close on the 14th of June, and you can also enter via our website, which has lots of clever stuff all about 5th gear.
0 to 60?
5.2.
4.8.
Gears.
5.
6.
Top speed?
148.
157.
This debate has been going on for years. The Subaru Impreza WRX STI and the Mitsubishi Evo 7 are ugly, gimmicky and drive frenetically. But to die-hard enthusiasts, they're the ultimate in street car cred. And now that they're available from UK dealers, it's time to put them head-to-head. Both use turbocharged 2-litre engines. Both pump out around 300 horsepower. Both are 4-wheel drive. And both will take you to 60 in around 5 seconds and go on to over 140 miles an hour. What we have here is the top of each range. The FQ300 Evo 7 for £31,495 and the ProDrive style Impreza for £27,495. Which is best? Place your bets now. Behind the wheel of the Impreza, you soon realise that these cars are as extreme to drive as they are to look at. I can feel every bump and ripple in the road reverberating up through my spine, and the noise from the tyres sounds like it's being amplified through the CD player. Then there's the power delivery. Under 4,000 revs, and it feels like you're driving a shopping car. But as the needle rises, it suddenly grows horns and turns into a supercar. Mind you, to keep the power there, you need to make frequent changes of a 6-speed gearbox that demands 100% concentration. Jump from the Subaru to the Mitsubishi and you find a world of surprising contrasts. Let's face it, first impressions are important. I'm certainly not so happy behind the wheel of this Evo 7. I'm sitting too high and these red dials are a real turn-off. There's really nothing to show me that I'm in anything special. And it's only got those 5 gears, but they do change very smoothly with an engine that's got a much wider power band. The ride, however, is even more intense than the Impreza's.
You won't relax in an Evo unless you park it. Both were born and bred on the world's rally stages, and in the hands of true enthusiasts, a similar experience is only a track day away, where they quite literally transform themselves. Now, the suddenness of that power delivery doesn't really matter because you've always got it above 4,000 revs. And this 6-speed gearbox that seemed a bit awkward when you were dawdling along the roads feels just right, it's perfect. And the car has totally come alive, it doesn't feel too stiff on this smooth racing track. And whilst the handling does tend to understeer a bit wide at the front as you go into the corners, a little lift of the throttle soon gets the tail stepping out. Now, Subaru quote this car as having just over 260 horsepower, but if that turbocharged air gets too hot, that power drops off, which is why you've got that great intercooler under the bonnet. And when the pressure's on, there's a little button you can press, which will spray the intercooler with water and help reduce that air intake temperature. And you'd certainly be under pressure if you had this Evo 7 in your rear view mirror, because this FQ300 has 305 horsepower. And although they won't tell us what the FQ stands for, it's certainly effing quick. The brakes seem to have got a bit more fade than the Subarus, especially after 3 laps of hard work. But there's no doubt, if it's excitement you want, then the Evo is the car for you. It too has a button to press to spray the intercooler, but now there's an automatic mode which will chime in when the temperature goes above 60 degrees, so it'll leave you to sort out what the car's doing. But the end result still seems to be pretty wild to me. But the Evo also has an electronically controlled active centre differential, and it's active yaw control to come to your aid. And all this adds up to a lap time some 2 seconds faster than the Imprezas. So it's the Evo that's the quickest and most focused track car. But it's the Impreza that's the best all-rounder. It's got the more extreme looks, it's easy to live with from day to day, and with the £4,000 I'd save, I could pay for a couple of track days, plus the new brakes and tyres I'd need after them. Don't miss next week's 5th Gear when I attempt to break a world record.
If you're about to change your car and want to know how to get the best deal, then call us on 0901 565 5004 for our free car buyer's guide in association with DC Cook Direct. Calls cost 60 pence a minute, should last no longer than 3 minutes. And don't forget, Tiff Nadell is online now to answer all your questions on the Channel 5 website.
Another driver who's covered by car insurance from More Than, sponsors of 5th Gear.